Transformer TCG fans, it's Grillenheimer. Okay, this video is in a long time coming. Hopefully this is going to be the official reveal for base cards. They started as early as location cards because I was kind of borrowing from Pokemon a little bit, and then I realized this needs to be Transformers, so I went from location to Battlefield, and then from Battlefield to base cards. So we're going to go to the table here in a second, but a few things I want to do here first at the computer to explain a few things of how many you can have in your deck, how that's going to happen, what you're going to need. So the first thing you're going to need is to give up a star, because it's going to take a stratagem, a 1-star stratagem, to be able to have 3 in your deck. Now it is called obviously the Space Bridge. I'm trying to make the how can I say, we have somebody made something called zone cards. I don't quite get them. Yeah, I'm from Alabama, and I might be a little slow, and it took me about over a year to understand how to simply play this game. I got a friend that sort of makes fun of me. My goodness, you can figure out Transformers, but you can't figure out magic? Yeah. So let's get into look at the Space Bridge. And I've got 2 different images. They're the exact same card, 1-star cost. One's from G1, then the other Space Bridge is from Transformers Prime. They both look good for what they are. Interstellar dimensional travel. So, like I said, it's going to allow you to have 3 base cards in your deck. Now, if you're playing in a casual game setting and you're like, well, I don't want to use no stinking Space Bridge, yeah, you can try that. As long as you and your opponent are both playing base cards, and maybe whether you're limiting yourself or not, but I don't know. This feels a little more fair. Okay, so you get at the cost of a star, you have a Space Bridge stratagem in play to have 3 base cards in your deck. A base card can be played at the start of each turn if able. Well, what designates normally the start of your turn? Drawing a card. So now, instead of drawing a card, the start of your turn is going to be designated by letting you play a base card. So that's the part of the strategy of this. Now, up to 2 Space Bridges can be in play at the same time, and I've got that in the reminder as like reminder text. So yes, you can give up at a cost of 2 stars 6 base cards in your deck. You can have, if you do that, you can have like maybe, of course you're going to be stuck if you're still playing for a 25-star max. It only leaves you 23 stars left for characters. So you could go two wide, maybe with a 12 and not a 12 and a 13. That is 25. Like an 11 and a 12-star character or something, which means you can't play Space Bridges with combiner teams. But I have some that will help combiner teams out. But if you're playing all 5 of them, or 3 or whatever, you're not going to be able to play the Space Bridge in order to pull them in your group, in your team, in deck. So it's hopefully I'm trying to mix things up a little bit. Like say you try to bring in like a Space Bridge, and you're wanting to help out Constructicons, because I do have one for Constructicons. So you can like, well, Grillenheimer, well, can I use this without the Space Bridge? Yeah, you could, but then your opponent, you may, I don't know. I don't know. I might need to take out that certain card, which I think it's Crystal City. Yes, it is Crystal City. So originally when I came up with these ideas, I didn't have the space bridge. Okay, I don't want to go too much longer here at my desk. So, and then if the start of your turn is now designated by playing a base card instead of drawing a card, I'm bending the rules a little bit. But remember, the first person that plays can't play any cards whatsoever. You draw a card and then you play. You can't play any cards. Well, then the second person, if they do have a base card in their hand, yes, they can play a base card before they draw. But then they can't play anything else because it's still, I'm qualifying this as still playing a card. You still played a card. So kind of like the two different phases of Magic. So I do know something about Magic, that it's still considering playing one card for your turn. It's just now at the start of your turn, before you draw a card. So do you really want to play that base card and go ahead and get it in there and hope your opponent doesn't knock it out with something that can knock out base cards without having any in their deck? They may not want to give up a star with the first space bridge to have base cards. So I have made a few cards that won't be revealed today that can knock out their space bridge, or even knock out a base card being played, etc., without going through the cost of a star to have a space bridge, to have cards to be able to knock out someone else's base cards. Okay, if they don't want to play base cards, fine. I'm trying to give those players also something to be able to battle another opponent that is playing with three base cards in their decks. Okay, so I'm working on balance. This is still one big experiment. Okay, so it's not exactly a zone card. Which the few that I've looked at, I was trying to look them up online, and I couldn't find them again. So I don't know, and maybe I was looking in the wrong spot. So a base card is in play once introduced and remains in play until it is scrapped, KO'd, or another base card is played by either player. So yes, if you play one base card and you got another one on a swap or on a draw, and you're like, oh, let me change this out for whatever, you can, especially if they're different. If it's the same base card, it's neither here or there. But so this is to look ahead. If your opponent has something that is going to scrap your base card, or maybe even KO your base card, to where you can't get it in the flip anymore. I don't think I have anything to that effect made yet. So, things to think about. So I'm really trying to think of a big picture here going forward. So that's the space bridge. Let's go to the table. Let's get some stuff. Okay, a couple of things. Now, we have established you need a space bridge to be able to play 3 base cards, to have 3 base cards in your deck. Since I have some base cards that can help aerial bots, Constructicons, maybe Combaticons, and some other of those combiner type characters, what I was trying to do was trying to utilize, being able to put individual characters in with them, mixing stuff up. But I'm not opposed to where if you want 3 in your deck, you're going to need a space bridge. Can I still have a base card in my deck without the space bridge? I guess. But you may only be able to have 1 or 2. Up to 2 without a space bridge. Let's say that. So we've established you need a stratagem. You need this space bridge stratagem, to be able to put up to 3 base cards in your deck. You can have 2 space bridges in your deck to be able to have 6. Which, you know, if you're still doing with the minimum 40 card deck, now you're cutting into your deck. You only have 44 cards left to deal with. Though some of these cards can be kind of strong. So, and I am trying to put a little bit of a kink in things to where you play them first before you draw for turn. Now, if you don't want to do it that way, if you want to put this in with, since it is a 3rd card type, on top of your actions and secret actions and upgrades. I don't know if anyone else has tried to come up with a different card type or not. That, you know, once you get to that phase, normally at the start of your turn, you draw a card. Well, because of Space Bridge, you may play a base card at the start of your turn. Well, can I play a base card in my main phase of doing cards? Yeah, I guess you could. But, you know, the stratagem sort of says, isn't limiting you to only playing them at the start of your turn. It just says a base card can be played at the start of your turn, if able. So if you don't have a base card, you draw for turn, and now you have a base card in hand, can you play it? Yeah, I guess you can. But then you can only play one other card. If I have a base card at the start of turn and I play it and knock someone else's card out, draw for turn, can I play a base card or another base card and an action and an upgrade? Why would you want to play another base card? For one. But since I'm considering this as being able to play 2 cards for turn, which is the original game's main instructions, I'm keeping with that. So if you played a base card at the start of your turn, before you draw, and you get to that phase where you can play actions and upgrades and tap abilities before you tap for attack, playing a base card first still digs into how many cards you're going to be playing during that phase. So if you've played a base card, you can only play 1 card during that phase. That's what I think. That's how I think this should be handled. So if your opponent has a base card, these are my base cards. I'm going to reveal about 4 of them here in a second. Oh gosh, excuse me, my nasal mess. If where was I going with this? Before I snorted and completely lost my train of thought. If your opponent has a base card and you don't have a base card in hand, you draw for turn, can you play a base card even though it's not the start of turn? Yeah, I guess you can, but then you can only play 1 other card. If you have one and you play 1 to knock out your opponents, you draw for turn, then you can only play 1 card. That's what I'm trying to say. So playing a base card at the start of your turn is equal to being able to play 2 cards for turn. It's one of those 2 cards. So I'm not limiting you to being able to play a base card during that phase of the game. But if you have one in hand, you can go ahead and play it before you draw. If you can't, you draw, you have a base card, well, now you can play a base card, action, secret action, or upgrade. 2 of them. So you can play a base card if you want to, and then play an upgrade. But you can't play an action because you've already played 2 cards. You have to choose. So I guess I will allow some play on this to some extent, but for the most part, if you play and you have, sorry, off-road, let me see here. Let me get a Cybertron, a Cygar, and an Energon and a Scraplet. This is in my card, in my hand. And I can play. It's my turn. It's the start of my turn because they just attack me and put attack on somebody. Let's say, I don't know, Grotesque. This is my space bridge. Let's say that's their space bridge. I can play a base card. Let's say there's not even one in play yet. Now, I can draw for turn. Can I play an action and upgrade? No, just one. Because I've already played one card for turn. Now I can play, this is my second card for turn. Even though, yes, I've already drew a card, excuse me. Because I've already played one card for turn before I drew. Now I can only play one more card after I've drawn. So, better make it a good one. Put on some Energon or maybe a Cygar or maybe a Scraplet card, or if I only have one, or if I want to hold on to it till I find my other Scraplets or something. Trying to add a little more strategy to the game for what it's worth. And I'm not great with strategy on this game, okay? I'm just going to be frank. And that's not my name. So let's keep going. Let's look at a few cards. I really wish I had Asteroid, Milky Way, and Cybertron printed out. I should have done that beforehand, but I didn't. So, all right. So let's look at a few cards here, base cards. Originally I was wanting to go in alphabetical order, but let's not do that. Let's look at some of the main HQs here. And Decepticon HQ, Autobot Base The Ark. We'll look at the Dead Universe. And why are those guys working on Sunday? I complain about those people on those construction vehicles through the week. I don't want to hear it right now. I'm sorry. I feel like I'm missing a card. Okay, so we have those three. Abandoned base. Oh, it was Cybertron. It's right. They're all four right here. I'm looking right at them in the face. So let's look at Cybertron. Cybertron is orange and green. Now every one of these is going to have a green pip. My printer prints out a little dark, so all these bottom pips are all green pips. Okay, so most of them are all kind of blank or regular green pips, where you can get them all on the flip for attack or defense. Doesn't matter which. Except so Cybertron is that way. It's orange and green, so you can get Cybertron at any time, as long as it happens to be one of your three cards when using a space bridge. Can I use a Cybertron if I don't want to use the space bridge? I guess so. It'll only be one or two base cards in your deck. So I will. That was a piece of dust. So I will allow that. So Cybertron you can get while this card is in the battlefield. Each Autobot and Decepticon in alt mode has bold 1 until end of turn. It's that simple. So it's just a little bold, 4 characters in their alt modes. But Grillenheimer, you didn't mention Predacons or Maximals. No, I didn't. I was really focusing a little more on Autobots and Decepticons overall. I do have the Predacon and Maximal bases for the most part. Almost have these all completed, and I have like a good 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and I got a 9th one around here somewhere, and I just can't find it. It's 1984, and it's got Ravage on it from the old cartoon. And it is around here somewhere, and I just dropped Skywarp. So let's just keep going instead of me fumbling through stuff. So Cybertron is just simply just a little bold for Autobots and Decepticons in alt mode. It's just simple as that. While this is in the battlefield, and that's the point. I wanted something that lasted longer than an action or upgrade might, and not as permanent as some stratagems can be. Of course, there's some stratagems that once you are done with it, you flip it over. There is some of that, and I was doing something like that early on as well, because we did have some official stratagems from Wave 5, that 1 or 2 that got flipped over, but I wanted somewhere in between to where you can have a card in play, and it's not just going to affect your team, it's going to affect their team also. Let's just have some Decepticons over here. That vortex looks terrible. I don't know. Let's have Beast War Megatron just to fill out the table a little bit. So you're going to have one spot for all base cards that can go. That's going to affect both sides of the table. I think I've well established that. Of course, y'all haven't seen all the other 8 uptime videos that I've been trying to record this and explain this. I feel like I've gone over this many times, and y'all really haven't seen that. So, yeah, if I have Autobots in alt mode like Grotesque or Decepticon over here in alt mode, yeah, they're going to get bold 1. But I'm also going to give my opponents bold 1 for their Decepticons or Autobots in alt mode. So if they want to flip somebody for turn, they may flip somebody, but then they're like, well, off-road may not be, he's in his better, he's got 3 defense. Let's just use him and leech off their bold 1 from their Cybertron. I'm not gonna change that out. Fine, you can do that. That's the point. So you're gonna help yourself, but you may inadvertently or directly help your opponent. They may not even be using base cards. In some of my earlier tests before I created the Space Bridge to have only a limited amount of base cards, I even lost a few games with Buddy using these in a test. So sometimes they will help your opponent out other than yourself. So there's that. Now let's go to Autobot Base The Ark. And no, you wouldn't just put it on top of your opponent's card. They would put this card in their scrap because it is a part of your deck. These go in your deck like a regular card. So they can be drawn. They can be swapped on the flip. Autobot Base The Ark has the Autobot symbol on the green. So only your Autobot characters can get this on the flip. If Pterosaur is attacking or defending and I flip this card, I won't be able to get it. But if Grotesque is, I can, etc., etc. So while this card is in the battlefield, each Autobot has bold 2. And I don't do that very often. I don't do that lightly. I don't do a lot of bold 2, pierce 2 very much at all. I do it very small and incremental between all that we have with action cards, secret action cards, upgrades, all the Battle Masters and my Power Masters included in those Battle Masters. Everything is going to I think is going to add up, including some very nice stratagems other people have made on top of me and whatever is actually official. Like, I don't know, Bike Gang. So things to think about. That's why I try not to I didn't try to make these too strong. Now, I do have a water-based card? Ugh, I thought I had. I'm not seeing one, but we have one. I've got one called Calm Bay, one called the Underwater Decepticon base. I got one in here called Decepticon HQ, but it does show show it underwater, but it does not take care of Scraplet cards. That was part of the whole original plan for that. Was when I made location cards on my phone and I changed their name to battlefield cards, and then from battlefield to base, the whole point of that was to prevent this card that I created about 2+ years ago, were Scraplet cards, which are a very simple card that work very similar to Focus Fire, which are orange that give bold 1, but these are blue that knock down defense. But they're going to have defense like off-road here. If I'm using Swindle or or instead of Grotesque, and I have all 3 Scraplet cards. I can't play all 3 unless the character or the defender has a defensive 3. If they only have a defensive 2, I can only play 2 of these, because once you play one, you can play another. So if I have all 3 and Off-Road is in play, and I'm going to have a Swindle attack for turn over here. Of course, this base card, it wouldn't help him at all. But then I could play all 3 Scraplet cards and knock his defense down to 0. And now he has his attack of 3 plus whatever I'm going to flip. And because of that, I think this is a neat card to the game. This is how I always envision Scraplets. I like it. And I've got this is an old image. I've got a newer image from TF Prime that looks really cool. So I'll add that for y'all to look at as well. And I think I've added that in the Dropbox, the new one. So you'll have, kind of like a new version. So there's a new Scraplet card version as well. So the Autobot Base The Ark is going to give Autobots bold 2. Doesn't matter which side they're on. Decepticon battle cards cannot be played by either player. I don't think I have any Decepticon battle cards over here. What? There's one. Like there's a blaster. I forgot whose blaster it is. And here's the HV Electron Breacher. They couldn't play this if they had this in their deck. If they had the HV Electron Breacher in their hand, and I just played the Ark, and now it's their turn, and they can't knock this out, or they don't want to, or whatever, it will prevent them from playing this card. Because that was what I was mentioning Scraplets. Originally, these battlefield cards, when I was still calling them that, was only going to prevent Scraplets for water locations. And then I thought, let's go more than that. And so you're going to see base cards that are going to prevent other cards from being played. And this one is going to prevent a whole faction of cards. Decepticon cards. All right. So let's keep going. So that was the second one. And the next one is the Decepticon HQ. The Decepticon HQ is just the polar opposite. When this card is in the battlefield, each Decepticon has bold 2. I could have said for turn, but it does not stack. Just because Vortex may get bold 2 this time, then they go. Swindle can leech off this. It can give him bold 2. If I can't knock this out and the Decepticon HQ was their base card, Swindle over here can still get bold 2. Doesn't matter which side he's on. Autobot base battle cards cannot be played by either player, which means if I have Matrix, I can't play it. I can't even play this Arc card, the HM Laser Cannon. I can't play it because they have the Decepticon HQ in play, and maybe I can't knock it out. Maybe I haven't gotten a base card yet, or a card that I can knock it out if I'm not playing with base cards. Those are coming as well. So there's that. So let's go to the Dead Universe. And again, the Decepticon HQ and the Autobot, you'll notice, don't have any other pip. It's only a green, and only those factions can pull the cards. Now, that might be one thing I might need to do here, because I meant to make these faction cards as well. So this would need to be a Decepticon faction. This would need to be an Autobot faction. Well, shucks. Still an easy fix, but I'm going to get that done for y'all too. The Dead Universe, which should have the Mercenary faction on here, is black and green with Mercenary on the green. So only Mercenaries can get the Dead Universe on the flip. So while this card is in the battlefield, each Mercenary has stealth while untapped. So it's only going to give your Mercenaries untapped. So if I have all these guys over here, if you can see them in the picture, well, Swindle my Swindle is a hybrid character. He's Mercenary and Decepticon. he now has stealth when untapped. So if it's the untapped phase and I've played this for turn, of course I'm going to have to attack. So that sort of negates all that. But maybe this was played the turn before. It was played in the turn before. Maybe they can't knock this out. Maybe they don't have a base card or something along those lines. Then it's their turn. They do their stuff, play draw, play 2 cards or whatever. And then because of this, they can't go into Swindle. They're going to have to go into Grotusk or Pterosaur. Actually, Grotusk in this mode has Brave. So they would have to go into Grotusk. So, you know, all these things are falling into place. All these things seem to be working fairly well. In the meantime, opportune cards cannot be played, by either player. Opportune cards? Yes. Those are the names of the 2 official cards we got for Wave 5 that help Mercenaries. And I made 2 battle cards with the word opportunistic in there. I would say that those would be included too. Whether it's the opportune official or opportunistic that I made. That can help Mercenaries and the other faction mentioned on those as well. So you want to say, well, if Mercenary Battle Masters are too problematic, boom, here's a Dead Universe card. Here's Dead Universe Base. To where not only is it going to give all Mercenaries stealth while untapped across on both sides of the table, if your player is heavily doing that, of course, when dealing with base cards, you might want to have some in your sideboard. You might want to have, if you deal with sideboards, these might be some neat sideboard cards for your second or third game. Think about that. Just another idea. Even if it's just 1, and then you might have something else. There are going to be some other cards that, you know, this prevents Decepticon faction cards from being played. This is going to prevent Autobot action cards from being played. This is going to prevent the mercenary cards from being played for the most part. Maybe I need to change Opportune to the mercenary faction card on there, like I did with the other 2. Maybe that would make that easier. Probably would. I might need to make that change, like Michael Jackson saying. So, what do you think? We only went over 4. There's a lot more to go. Yes, I have some right here that I want to go over, but you know, just like some of these other cards, some are going to prevent the key to Vector Sigma, whether it's mine or somebody else that NE has made that happens to be a battlefield card or an upgrade or whatever. Abandoned Base is going to help Mercenaries and Wreckers. The key to Vector Sigma cannot be played in the antechamber of Vector Sigma. The Ambassador Shuttle is going to prevent Crowbars. There's been some base cards that I have made that... yeah, there's one. That actually, Cannon Blast should not be a faction card. The Hazardous Shield is a Decepticon card. There's Cannon Blast again. Buddy wanted that to be a faction card. Maybe I made it a faction. I can't remember which. And I was trying to make faction cards for everything. And then I got talked down to, not that down to, I didn't mean that in a bad way, on Facebook. Oh, you can't do that. It has to be something specific. But that's why I was wanting to make medic cards for each faction, Energon cards for each faction, being the same type cards, to where if you have more faction cards in your deck for whatever, it can affect the game. But, you know, I got it sort of a talking to about it has to have a reason to be a faction. You can't just make a faction card. Okay. But I have some that, oh goodness, the grenade launcher. And here's the one card, defensive configuration. The name of this card eludes me whenever I don't have it in front of me. But yeah, I've got some that are going to prevent Maybe I need to make one that prevents Bolt of Lightning, but I have not done that. It is a star card, so I'd hate to do that where somebody can't play their star card. But being able to prevent people from playing their faction cards from getting the Matrix in play, or HM laser cannon, or something as simple as crowbars, grenade launchers, etc. These things are going to help prevent both sides of the table from playing simple cards. I've got one that prevents all field communicators. All right, so I think this is going to be interesting. I think this is going to put a neat kink into the game from preventing your opponent from playing certain cards, from getting those matrix of leaderships in play. I don't have a matrix of leadership. I can't play this. Oh, shucks. Oh, but I have a crowbar. I can play that at least. It may not be what I want to play. Oh, I can't play my grenade launcher, but I can play a flamethrower at least. See where I'm going with this? Card prevention, and it all started with water locations and scraplets. Simple as that. So, without further ado, what do y'all think of this? Do you think I'm bending the game too much by starting your turn by playing a base card if you have it? Smoke them if you got them, and then you draw. Or if you don't have one and you draw and you get one to give you the option to be able to play at that turn, it's just not at the start of turn. I do just say can. I'm not preventing you from playing it on the second phase, or the main phase really. But if you do play one first, that's eating out of your pool of being able to play 2 cards during that phase of the game. What do you think? Do you think this works? I think it works. Maybe I'm in the wrong here. Maybe I don't know. I'm breaking the technicalities of the game somewhat. But it is a third one. It's a third card type. 2, I'm only giving a max with 1 space bridge. Which, if you do have 2 space bridges, now you can have 6. You could have 3 with 2 space bridges. You could have 3 Decepticon headquarters and 3 dead universes. You could have 6 of these, 3 of each of these in total in one deck. But then that only leaves you with 34 cards left, only if you're playing with a minimum of the 40 card deck. So what do you think? Because some of these are incremental, some do seem to be strong. I'm really trying some interesting stuff here. This has been a lot of work. I've got a lot of cards finished and done that I want to go over. Let me know what you think. Oh, goodness, 30 minutes. So, well, we'll stop it here. I've got some other stuff we're going to need to go over. Next time, the Cygars are really going to come into play that I made months ago, like 8 months ago. These are going to be pertinent now. We'll see where it goes from here. I want to say thank you for watching. Thank you for listening and hanging out with me. I know there's been a bit of drought of cards from what I understand. So, without further ado, if you like this content and you like what you see, and if you think this is interesting to add to the game to any extent, no, these are not zone cards. I don't think they act like zone cards. I want to make them simpler because I'm from Alabama, if you don't already know. And I use the KISS method and keep it simple and stupid. And I'm not a big card shark or card maker, even though I'm making tons and tons and tons of ridiculous Transformer cards. Get some Scraplets and throw them at the bell. Subscribe if you haven't already. Share this with another Transformer TCG fan and say, hey, let's check this guy out. This is an experiment in the making. So if we need to make changes, let me know. You might want to say, God, dude, I don't think that's a good idea. Let it be a card that can be played in the regular part of the game, not at the start of turn. Let me know. That might be problematic. Let me know. I'm also trying to fix some balances in the game by preventing certain cards from being played. But not only just your opponent, but yourself as well. Which I think these make this really, really nice sideboard items. I could be wrong. But let me know in the comments down below. We'll catch you next time. Don't have a good day. Have a blessed day as always. And like normal, Autobots, flip out and let's roll for it.